Hello, welcome back to the channel, and today I thought I'd look at the costs of running my EV, which is a Tesla Model 3 long range, and compare that to my old EV, which was an MG ZS, and also the diesel Hyundai i40 I had before that. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you like this sort of content and you want to support me and get my channel subscribership up, and also get this information out to more people. So I made a video in June last year where I looked at the first year of owning my MG ZS and compared it to the cost of running my diesel. But since then, the price of public charging has gone up. The cost of petrol and diesel has come down, but due to the current instabilities in the Middle East, those prices look like they're rising again. So I'm going to cover what I found from my own experience. Again, you'll see lots of videos that talk about average prices of savings and giving a general sort of saving that you can make if you switch from diesel to an EV. But it's heavily dependent on your own circumstances. Not only the mileage you cover, but also where you charge, how often you need to charge. So this is from my point of view. So I should point out that I'm very lucky that even though I can't charge at home, I have got solar panels and I could go onto a cheap rate of electricity, but because I've got on-road parking and Swansea don't allow anything like the Curbo system or a cable safety cover, hopefully that will change. It means that I have to rely on the public charging network, but I'm very lucky because I can also charge locally for free. So my numbers are always going to be skewed compared to other people's, but this is what I'm saying. It's very important to take into account your individual circumstances and try to calculate it from that. Anyway, on the 13th of October last year, I exchanged that MG for the Tesla. And since then, I've done 7,195 miles. So normally in a 6-month period, I would do 6,000 miles, but we've done a little bit more driving recently because we've been doing some more trips, longer trips to guest teach the tango. And also with my tutoring business, I've been going to more people with that as well. So I've done that, let's call it 7,200 miles. And over that period, I've had to charge the car with 1,715 kilowatt hours. Which means if we divide one number by the other, that car has been averaging 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is pretty good. The MG, by comparison, only averaged about 3.9 over the course of the whole year. And I should say, the Tesla's just been over the winter period and through the spring, so it's not in the ideal condition. So that number is likely to go up a little bit. There have been some differences in my driving as well. With the MG, I was doing a lot of hypermiling on motorways, so when we drove on motorways just to try and get the extra range, because that car only had a 44 kilowatt hour battery, therefore a range of about 150 miles, I would sit behind a lorry at 56 miles an hour. With the Tesla, I found that I can sit at 65, 70 without hypermiling and still get that efficiency. So that's just to show that different cars can influence your lifestyle. So out of that 1,715 kilowatt hours, 1,247, which amounts to about 72%, I've managed to get for free. So charging locally for free. And when I charge, I tend to top the car up either to 80% or to 100% if I'm planning a long journey. And the car's range then goes up to an indicated 300 miles, which actually is fairly accurate. So that other 27%, where's that charging come from? So Tesla has the supercharging network, which I use if I'm going to need to charge, and 354 kilowatt hours have been put in at those supercharging network points, and that's cost me £155, and it amounts to about 20% of the charge that the car has used. So that means that I'm paying on average at a supercharger just under 44 pence. I could have brought that down if I charged at the super cheap rates, but normally you have to charge when it's suitable for you and convenient for you. So that's something to bear in mind. So about 44 pence for that. The other 6% has been through Pod Point and BP Pulse. So we've been up to Nottingham a couple of times with this car, and round the corner from where we stay there's a BP Pulse slow charger, so 7 kilowatts, which we plug into overnight when we stay there. So we've done that twice. We think we've put in about 83 kilowatt hours. The BP Pulse app is rubbish and only shows you 3 months worth of data, so I can't look at the trip in October. So I've estimated that to have cost about £48. There's also been the first time we charged in October, the price was about below 50p. After October, it went up to something in the 60p region. So on average, that's cost us 58p per kilowatt hour, and added, as I say, 48p to our cost. And the other times we charged, we drove to Southampton, charged in a Lidl car park. This was before we'd managed to set up the Tesla account, so we had to charge using a Pod Point system, which was charging 65p per kilowatt hour. We put in 31 kilowatts, and it cost us about £20. So the total we've spent on charging is £223.24 for the 7,200 miles we've covered, which works out at about 3p per mile. So if we compare with that with diesel, so the Hyundai used to do about 50 miles to the gallon. At current prices, that works out at about 16p per mile. So if we had the diesel and we travelled the same distance, that would cost us £1,151.20, which is a saving of £928 over 6 months. So you're looking at a saving of nearly £1,900 over the whole year. So that really highlights how much you can save if you have a good ability to charge, or very cheap ability to charge, an EV over a diesel. Of course, an EV is more expensive to buy in the first place than a diesel, so you have to look at how long you plan to own the car for. But then again, the EV will hold its value as well. Then moving on to the MG. So as I say, this had an efficiency of about 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which means that we would have had to charge it 1,845 kilowatt hours. So over 130 kilowatt hours more than the Tesla. If I take the same split that I got with the Tesla from the supercharging, however, I wouldn't be able to supercharge the MG with the Tesla superchargers. I'd have to rely on GridServe. So if I took 20% of that usage of electricity that the MG would have had and applied the 79p that something like a GridServe would use, that would amount to £300. And of course the £20 for the Pod Point and the 48 for the BP Pulse would stay the same. So that means it would have cost us £369.08, which means we've saved over the MG £145.84. But it's not as simple as that. Because the MG had a shorter range, we would have had to charge more. So we could probably, over that £300 and the amount we spent on supercharging, we would probably have had to do about 50% more on that. So in fact, the probably saving is probably closer to the £500 mark over the MG at the moment. But again, that just highlights, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing some long journeys, having a longer range car is much, much better. If you can't charge at home, having the longer range and being able to charge somewhere relatively cheap, say workplace, is far better as well. Anyway, so that's pretty much sums up my experience over the year so far. So we're looking at probably nearly a £2,000 saving over a diesel, and probably about an £800 to £1,000 saving over the MG. So overall, that's starting to pay off for us. Anyway, as I said, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video very soon.